ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। हरे कृष्णा। His Holiness Sri Mahaswamiji of Tiruchi Ashram, respected Professor Dr. Satyavrat Shastri, Justice Sri Rama Joyce, Dr. R. Ganesh, K.G. Raghavan, and all the devotees of Mahapuranas assembled here. This is the third consecutive year that ISKCON is giving its supporting hands to Bharathiya Vidhya Bhavan, who is taking the lead in organizing these conferences. The first one was on Vedas. The last year it was on Upanishads. The feedback shows that these seminars were well received, and its impact on those who participated has been tremendous, not only within the country but also people from different parts of the world have read these proceedings and have appreciated the influence of the same and the need for the same. This year we have chosen the message of Mahapuranas. The Sankirtana movement of ISKCON was started by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal 500 years back. The founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, is coming in parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement was entirely based on Bhagavad Purana and Bhagavad Gita. Incidentally, Bhagavad Purana was the last composed work of Vyasadeva and is supposed to contain the mature spiritual realization of Vyasadeva. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the natural commentary on Vedanta. During this seminar, many papers are being presented on these Puranas. This seminar is not like ordinary seminars of disseminating mundane information or knowledge. The very activity of this seminar is a sacrifice of concerted effort to organize, both on the part of the organizers as well as those who have prepared these papers for presentations. It is an application of their heart and intellect to glorify the Mahapuranas, which is really an yajna. The Supreme Lord is worshipped by this kind of seminars. These kinds of spiritual activity radiate spiritual vibrations of purity and unity to the entire city. Thus, the benefit of glorifying God is never limited to the direct participants, but it delivers different kinds of fruits of peace, harmony, and happiness in the entire society. Our Puranas, if they have to attract the intellectual youth of this country, it has to be presented in a rational and an scientific way. We have heard wonderful exposition on this subject from Mahaswamiji, from Satyavrat Shastriji, from Dr. Ganesh. This is a wealth of this country. So many brilliant youths are there in this country today. We are at loss to understand why these brilliant minds are not applying their intellect to understand this treasure which brings greatest good to humanity, brings peace, harmony, good life to everyone on this earth. It is really unfortunate that only a few people are even aware of the depth of this knowledge, the impact of this knowledge it can create on humanity. In fact, in our country, even about before the Western influence, practically every child in this country would somehow get exposition of these subjects through the Gurukula system of education. It is during the British rule that the Gurukula system of education was intentionally broken apart, and they brought in the Western influence. even among the intellectuals of this country. The intellectuals of this country stopped studying Sanskrit. They had no opportunity. Brilliant minds started reading the Western philosophies, Western thoughts. And because they did not know Sanskrit, as Dr. Ganesh said, many translations of these Puranas, though might have had good intentions, many of them had good intentions, but still the paradigm is not the right paradigm. Many of these translations considered, they took only the mythological part of the Puranas. Today, the Indian youth, you tell about Puranas, they'll think it's mythology. Not only the Indian youth, the intellectuals in this country stand on the dais and they proclaim that it is Indian mythology. They don't promote the historical truth of these Puranas. No doubt there were several allegories, metaphors, stories to bring out the essence of what is in these Puranas. And they proclaimed or they propagated these metaphors, all these things to look like primitive knowledge. This cannot be subject of truth. How can this be so? This way they created that impression. I'm trying to explain that why this gap has come in the Indian intellectual energy is not being put on this, because there is a bias in the Indian minds that these are mythology, this is not science. This is nothing to do with the truth. We have to break this. It is not enough just few of us in this conference or in this connected to this organization, relish, enjoy this again and again. It had to spread to everyone. This is relevant to humanity. As Dr. Satyavrat Shastri read out, it gives us a code of living to bring about good life. Not only that, the Puranas, they are bringing forth the truth. That not only the absolute truth, it's describing a lot of things about the geography, it's describing about the cosmology, creation. All these things are not some poetic imagination of some person. Vyasadeva must have used the poetic expression for describing these truths. But it cannot be considered to be simply some poetic imagination of somebody. It's not. There is truth in it. There is description of the universe. There is description of the various planetary systems. Of course, nowadays the trend is changing because a lot of people have started devoting their intellectual energy in trying to establish that what is said in Puranas is not mythology. Krishna is not a myth. Rama is not a myth. Like Mahaswamiji said, they all are personalities who are historical personalities. The incident described in these Puranas are reality. It's not imaginary. They are reality. So, today, underwater excavation in Dwaraka is one example how Dwaraka has been established to be there. Right there is a city under the water. Archaeologists have excavated sites near Kurukshetra and have come to conclusion. So many different pottery and all these things have been discovered and has been dated to match with the date of Mahabharata war. The names that are described in Mahabharata are even today, the names are same. Is it coincidence? Recently, two botanists, they took a journey from from Ayodhya, all along the route, for 14 years where Rama and Sita were in exile. And they noted all the flora and fountain that is described in the Mahabharata. And in all those places, even today, it matches. Every one of those flora and fauna matches. It's not coincidence. It established the truth of Ramayana. It established that Ramayana is a true story. It is not something which is an imagination of some author. This prejudice that is there in the Indian youth is a very big setback, and that is why intelligent, brilliant people of this country, instead of taking up this, they are now becoming the CEOs of all the big companies in the world in the US. Imagine those brains they applied on this. It is important for us to think beyond this seminar, how to reach out to these people by scientific presentation of these truths in our Vedas, and break this idea that it is mythology. Just because allegories are used, just because metaphors were used, it is wrong. It's a big disservice to our ancient scriptures to consider it all to be simply having no value to truth. My own example is a testimony. When I was 23 years old, when I was in IIT, I started reading, looking out for what is the truth. Then in our IIT library, the whole 30 feet long, 2 rows of full of philosophy books were there. So as soon as the first time I joined IIT, I went through those aisle and I saw Prabhupada's books, all Puranas, Bhagavad Purana. I pulled out one book. On the cover I saw Garuda and Narayana sitting on Garuda. I said, it's all stories. I pushed it back inside. I never touched. Next 2 years, 3 years in the library, every time I was after what is the truth, what is the truth. All the Western philosophy books I used to read. Every day I used to pass through these books. But these are all stories. We want to know what is absolute truth, not stories. And then at the end of it, after 2-3 years of search, one day I came across Bertrand Russell's final words on his deathbed. He said, if I have another life, I would never touch philosophy, because at the end of all these years of my effort, I do not know what I am seeing is truth or illusion. That shook me. Next day, I thought, okay, enough of this search for truth. Nobody knows. Leave it. Everybody is guessing, and here, the whole life they are spending, they don't know what is Param Satya. What is the cause of all causes? So that next day when I went, I didn't know, I had repulsion to touch any of those books. So I thought, today let me read some stories, light stories. So I took back this Bhagavad Purana. And then when I read Prabhupada's purport, I was shocked. This is not story. This is talking about Param Satya. When I read the verse, Ishwaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. My God, this is calling Sarva Karana Karanam, cause of all causes. Even our modern science doesn't use this word, cause of all causes. Shocked. I said, this is talking about truth. This is not story. So that caused me to dedicate my life at the age of 23 to this cause of Krishna consciousness. Why not? Intelligent youths of this country, even as a hobby, you should let them pursue whatever they are doing. But even as a side activity, if they apply this intelligence, brilliant people are there, brilliant Indians are there in this country. They should get into this, and then they'll be the real contributors for the welfare of the whole world. Indians will guide the whole world, not by simply sitting in our own small rooms and glorifying Puranas. It has to spread out, and that is the purpose of this seminar. That is my inspiration. Not only what happens here, Bharathiya Vidhya Bhavan has been taking extreme care to record all these things, to print them, to convert it into DVDs and send it all over the world, so that the Indians as well as others who really want to know what is the essence of Indian thought, they will get it from these seminars year after year that is being done. Our humble service to this contribution, ISKCON's humble contribution is to provide the infrastructure to Bharathiya Vidhya Bhavan, and they are taking a lot of pains. I congratulate Mr. Suresh, Raghavan for this wonderful work that they have been doing year after year. Let them continue. We pray at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. We are all sitting at his lotus feet. The Garbhagriha is there. Right above is the Garbhagriha. This conference happens every time at his lotus feet, and therefore it is successful year after year. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.